At the bottom of our world lies a continent of ice, Antarctica, an alien landscape stretching over 5.5 million square miles. A place so hostile, so utterly unforgiving, it is the coldest, driest, and windiest place on Earth. The average temperature plummets to -50 degrees Fahrenheit. Winds scream across the ice sheet at over 200 miles per hour. The ice itself, a crushing weight more than a mile deep, blankets 98% of the land. This is a continent that seems designed by nature to reject human life. For all of modern history, we have been told this land is a wasteland, inhabited only by scientists in fortified research stations and resilient native wildlife. We have been taught that no ancient human, no fledgling civilization could have ever survived here. We have, perhaps, been told a lie. Because hidden deep within this frozen desert, unseen by any human eye for millennia, something impossible is emerging from the ice, something that defies every chapter of our established history books. In 2016, satellite imagery from Google Earth revealed an anomaly that sent shockwaves across the internet. At coordinates 79 degrees, 58 minutes south, in a structure, a massive, four-sided peak rising from the surrounding ice. Its shape is not the random, chaotic form of a typical mountain. It appears geometric, symmetrical. Its four faces, aligned with striking precision, look hauntingly familiar. The immediate, explosive question was obvious. Is this a mountain, or is this a monument? The structure is colossal. Its square base is estimated to be over 2 kilometers wide on each side, dwarfing even the Great Pyramid of Giza. Theories ignited. This was it, the Antarctica Pyramid. The definitive proof of a lost civilization, an ancient people who lived and built on this continent before the ice came. A culture, advanced enough to create megalithic structures, erased from history and buried under ice. The implications are staggering. It would mean our understanding of the past is not just incomplete, it is fundamentally wrong. But as quickly as the story went viral, the scientific establishment moved to dismiss it. The official explanation is simple, logical, and dismisses any notion of human involvement. Geologists classified the structure as a nunatak. A nunatak is simply a mountain peak that juts out above the surrounding glacier. It's an island of rock in a sea of ice. Dr. Mitch Darcy, a geologist at the German Research Center for Geosciences, stated the pyramid-like structures are common in mountainous, glacial areas. The shape, he and others argue, is the simple result of natural erosion. The mechanism is called frost wedging. Water and snow melt during the brief summer, seep into the cracks of the rock, and then refreeze. This expansion acts like a chisel, cracking the rock over millions of years. When a mountain has multiple faces, this erosion can, by sheer coincidence, create shapes that appear to be man-made. The consensus was clear. This is not an artifact. It is a geological curiosity, a trick of light and shadow. Case closed. Or was it? Because the nunatak theory, while plausible, fails to address a cascade of other, far more compelling evidence. Evidence that suggests the official story of Antarctica is the real fiction. The Antarctica Pyramid is not the only anomaly. It is merely the tip of a colossal iceberg. The investigation into our hidden past does not begin with satellite photos, but with a fragile piece of gazelle skin discovered in Istanbul in 1929. It is the Piri Reis map, dated 1513. The map was compiled by a Turkish admiral from far older source maps. It shows the coast of South America and Africa with astonishing accuracy. But it also shows something else, something that should not be there. A large landmass to the south, depicting the coast of Antarctica. But this is not the Antarctica we know. The map shows the coast of Queen Maud Land, free of ice. It details rivers, coastlines, and topographical features that are, today, hidden beneath thousands of feet of solid ice. How was this possible? The Antarctic ice sheet, we are told, has been in place for millions of years. The continent itself wasn't even officially discovered until 1820. In the 1950 seconds, Professor Charles Hapgood, a historian at Keene State College, proposed a radical theory based on this map. He suggested that the Piri Reis map was so accurate, it must have been based on source materials from an incredibly advanced ancient seafaring civilization. Hapgood's theory was Earth crust displacement. He argued that the Earth's entire outer crust could periodically shift in one piece, moving continents into new latitudes. He proposed that Antarctica was not always at the South Pole, that perhaps as recently as 12,000 years ago, it was in a more temperate climate. This theory was so compelling, it received a now famous endorsement from Albert Einstein, who wrote in 1953, "His idea is original. And if it were to continue to find verification, it would be of great importance to everything that is related to the history of the Earth's surface." At the time, Hapgood was dismissed as a heretic. His ancient civilization was relegated to fantasy. But in the 21st century, new evidence has emerged from the ice itself, and it is proving Hapgood was right about one crucial thing. Antarctica was not always a frozen wasteland. In 2017, German geologists from the Alfred Wegener Institute retrieved sediment cores from the seabed off West Antarctica. They were drilling to understand the continent's climate history. What they found, they were not prepared for. The samples, dating back approximately 90 million years, were not the barren rock they expected. They were a dense, matted layer of ancient soil. Inside this soil, they discovered the pollen, spores, and the remnants of a vast, temperate rainforest. The analysis revealed a climate that was, in their words, similar to what we know today from northern Italy. The average temperature was 53 degrees Fahrenheit. There were no ice sheets. There were rivers, swamps, and a forest teeming with life. Dr. Johann Klages, the lead author of the study, called it one of the most remarkable discoveries of his career. Now, 90 million years is, of course, long before Homo sapiens existed. But this discovery shattered a core assumption. It proved definitively that Antarctica was habitable. It was a paradise. The only remaining question is, when did the ice truly take over? Science says millions of years ago, but other evidence, human evidence, suggests a much more recent date. And that brings us to 2024. Just this year, researchers from Durham University used advanced ice-penetrating radar to map the bedrock hidden beneath the East Antarctic ice sheet. What they found is staggering. A colossal canyon system carved into the hidden continent, a network of valleys and ridges so vast it rivals the Grand Canyon in scale, over 300 miles long and more than a mile deep. Scientists believe this landscape was carved by ancient rivers before the ice sheet formed. They believe it has been hidden, untouched, for at least 14 million years. But this discovery, intended to prove the continent's ancient ice, inadvertently provides a blueprint for a lost civilization. Look at this. All great civilizations are born from water. They are built along the banks of great river systems: the Nile, the Tigris and Euphrates, the Indus. What we are looking at, what this 2024 data proves, is that Antarctica possessed its own massive, life-giving river system. If Hapgood was right, if the continent shifted, and this river system was active as recently as 12,000 years ago, This is precisely where an advanced civilization would have been built. And this is precisely what the Piri Reis map appears to show. The new evidence does not debunk the mystery, it deepens it. And finally, there is the human memory. The oral traditions of the Polynesian peoples, the greatest navigators in human history. Their legends, passed down for centuries, speak of voyages deep into the south. They tell of a land of white rocks, a place where the sea was covered in strange white stones that floated on the water, icebergs. They describe a land of mist and darkness, inhabited by creatures we now recognize as seals and penguins. These are not fantasies. These are nautical reports, woven into myth. They are the memories of ancient humans who saw Antarctica, memories of a time when it was, perhaps, accessible. So, we have three converging lines of evidence. 1. An ancient map showing the continent without ice. 2. Hard, scientific proof that it was once a temperate rainforest. And 3. New radar data showing a perfect civilization-sustaining river system exactly where the map said it would be. The Nunatak theory, the simple explanation of an eroded rock, suddenly seems painfully inadequate. We are at a critical junction. The evidence shows a continent that could have supported life, and ancient maps suggest it did. We are about to enter the realm of what this civilization might have been, and why it is being kept secret. If you believe our history books are missing a chapter, if you feel that the truth is often hidden in plain sight, then subscribe to this channel. We are dedicated to uncovering these mysteries, and we want you on this journey with us. Now, let's continue down the rabbit hole. The 90-million-year-old rainforest proves potential, but it doesn't prove opportunity for humans. But what if the big freeze happened more recently? Many alternative researchers point to a catastrophic event known as the Younger Dryas, roughly 12,800 years ago. A period of intense, sudden climate change, mass extinctions, and global floods. An event that corresponds perfectly with Plato's timeline for the destruction of Atlantis. This is the what-if scenario. What if Antarctica was in a temperate zone until this cataclysm? What if the event that caused the Younger Dryas, a comet impact, a pole shift, was the same event that moved the continent to the pole, entombing it in ice in a matter of years, not millions? It would mean an advanced, ancient human civilization could have existed, flourished, and been wiped from the face of the earth, with all evidence buried under ice. This is the theory proposed by authors Rand and Rose Flemath, and their candidate for this lost civilization is Atlantis. Plato described Atlantis as a continent-sized island, located beyond the Pillars of Hercules, the Strait of Gibraltar. He described it as a concentric ringed city that held dominion over parts of Europe and Africa. The Flemaths argued that Antarctica is the only continent that truly fits the description, that after the cataclysm, the survivors of Atlantis spread across the world, carrying the memory of their drowned and now frozen homeland. They became the civilization bringers, the gods of ancient myth who taught humanity the basics of agriculture, astronomy, and architecture. Is it a coincidence that the first civilizations in Sumer, Egypt, and the Indus Valley all sprang into existence, fully formed, with no apparent precursor? Is it a coincidence that all these cultures shared a sudden, inexplicable obsession with building pyramids? Was the Antarctica pyramid the original, the Giza of a forgotten mother culture? If it is man-made, what was its purpose? Was it a tomb for a god-king, like in Egypt? Was it an astronomical observatory, aligned with the stars as they were 12,000 years ago? Or was it something more? Many have theorized that pyramids, from Giza to Teotihuacan, were not tombs at all, but power plants, machines designed to harness the planet's subtle energies. If an advanced civilization built a pyramid at the Earth's geographic pole, what kind of power could it have generated? The questions are profound, and the resistance to answering them is troubling. There is one final layer to this mystery, the layer of modern secrecy. Antarctica is the only continent on Earth with no government. It is ruled by a consortium of nations under the 1959 Antarctic Treaty. On the surface, the treaty is a beautiful document of peace. It dedicates the continent to science, forbids military activity, and bans all commercial mining. But it has also created the most restricted, locked-down territory on the planet. Access to Antarctica is brutally difficult and astronomically expensive. All travel, all research, is tightly controlled by the very governments who signed the treaty. Flights are restricted. Independent expeditions are virtually impossible. Is the treaty protecting a pristine wilderness? Or is it protecting a secret? Is it a quarantine designed to keep the public out? The area containing the Antarctica Pyramid is in one of the most remote, inaccessible parts of the continent. No public expedition has ever been allowed to go near it. And this secrecy is most intense at a site called Lake Vostok. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is a scientific fact. Buried 2 miles beneath the Russian Vostok station is a liquid freshwater lake, the size of Lake Ontario, that has been sealed off from the outside world for over 15 million years. It is a pristine, untouched ecosystem. After decades of careful drilling, Russian scientists finally breached the lake in 2012. What they found has been the subject of intense controversy and classified reports. The first reports were explosive. They had found bacterial DNA that was, in their words, unidentifiable. It matched nothing in any existing global database. Then, silence. The lead researcher's comments were quickly walked back, dismissed as contamination. The results were classified. Access to the Vostok samples is now, like the continent itself, almost impossible to get. What did they find in that lake? A 5 million-year-old microbe? Or the remnants of something else that was flash frozen and survived? And this is not the only sign of hidden, active life. In the McMurdo Dry Valleys, there is a phenomenon that defies belief: blood falls. A 5-story, blood-red waterfall pours slowly out of the pristine white face of the Taylor Glacier. For decades, it was a complete mystery. Now, science has an explanation, and it's almost as strange as the sight itself. The blood is water from a subglacial lake, sealed off from light and air for over 1 million years. This water is supersaturated with iron. When it finally hits the air, the iron oxidizes, it rusts, turning the water a deep, disturbing red. But more importantly, that water is alive. It contains a complex ecosystem of at least 17 different types of microbes that have evolved in total darkness, breathing iron instead of oxygen. Blood falls is definitive proof that complex, active life is thriving, hidden inside the ice. It proves the ice is not a tomb, it's an incubator. The secrecy continues. Researchers who attempt to study the satellite images of the Antarctica Pyramid find that, year after year, the images are mysteriously censored. High-resolution data is blurred. Coordinates that were once clear are suddenly patched over with low-resolution strips. Areas of intense magnetic anomalies, where other structures are rumored to exist, are simply missing from the public data. If it is just a rock, why the censorship? If it is just a nunatak, why the military secrecy? Why the restricted access? Why, after 70 years, are the records of Operation High Jump still classified? The truth about Antarctica is locked in a battle between two opposing stories. The official story is one of geology, of a dead continent millions of years old, of a pyramid that is just a coincidental rock formation, a trick of the mind. The other story is a human story, a story of forbidden maps, of oral legends, and of startling new evidence. A story that scientific discoveries, like the 2017 rainforest, the 2024 River Canyon, and the Vostok anomaly, seem to be confirming. We know it was a paradise. We know it had the exact environment needed to support a great civilization. We know that ancient humans, the Polynesians, had knowledge of it. The Antarctica pyramid is more than just a mountain. It is a question. It is the marker of a great unknown. Mainstream science insists nothing is there. But the classified files, the restricted zones, and the blurred-out maps tell a different story. They tell us that something is buried under ice. And so the final question is not if there is a secret in Antarctica, but what that secret is. What do you think? Are we looking at the natural, geological erosion of a mountain? Or are we looking at the tombstone of a lost civilization? The ultimate proof that we are not the first advanced culture on this planet. Let us know your theory in the comments below.